Hello, everybody, and welcome to Fresh Off the Set. My name is David Osmond.
And I'm Elora Murray. Hello, hello.
It's good to be with you, Elora. We sometimes alternate days quite a bit, and I never get a chance to sit down on the set and do the show with you. So sitting in the podcast booth is new. This is cool experience.
It's been a hot minute.
Man.
It's been a hot minute.
Life good for you?
Life's great.
Yeah, I have to listen to the podcast myself just to catch up with you.
I know.
For real.
Pretty much.
And this one is no exception because this is a world that I'm actually not too familiar with as far as the content. But you had a chance to sit down with a guy named John Peterson, a good friend of yours. You did some shows with him.
Actually, yeah. So the way John and I know each other is we did a production of West Side Story at the Egyptian Theater almost a decade ago.
What?
And I was Riff. I was Riff. No. If you know West Side Story, I was Velma, and he was Riff.
Gotcha.
And so we did Dancing with the Gym together. He was just it. First of all, West Side Story is one of my favorite musicals, and that's a whole other podcast, but we were in that together, and since being in that, he has just grown as a performer, as a human, and now he is traveling with The Outsiders, the national tour of The Outsiders.
Huge, new, popular, got a Tony Award winning.
Tony Award winning musical, and honestly, and it's a story I've always loved, because I read the book when I was like in 8th grade. I think a lot of people are required to read it when they're in junior high. Yeah. So I've loved the book for a while, loved the movie, and now just, like I said, 10 years ago, we were in a show, and now
he's living his best life.
Yeah.
He's taking off, doing so well.
He's doing amazing.
So you had a chance to sit down with him and dive into his career, his passions, being on tour, what that's like as a Broadway performer. Mm-hmm. What else did you guys talk about?
And we talked about so many things, especially is this podcast, even if let's say you're not into theater, you don't know a lot about theater, this podcast is really about how you go after your dreams, listening to your gut, finding joy in being creative, different things like that. It's really more than just his performance, which is phenomenal. Like, this musical is great and his career is great. But John is so relatable because he had, and I don't want to give too much away, but he had a dream and he went for it, and it was not an easy path. And he talks a lot about the determination it takes, the grit it takes to go after what you want. And really, I think that's a story for anyone and everyone.
Showing up despite anything that comes against you. Mm-hmm. I'm excited to listen myself and learn a little bit more about your friend and what his career, where it's taken him and what his passions are. Because when you hear success stories, it really is inspiring for all of us to be able to learn from each other despite whatever industry we are in.
Exactly. And that's why I said at the beginning, whether you're into theater, whether you're not, this is for really anyone who has a dream.
Cool.
And John is a really sweet, relatable guy who has achieved what he wanted to go after.
Let's listen to these dreams. That sounds good to me.
Let's do it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Fresh Off the Set. I'm Elora Murray, and oh my gosh, you guys can probably all hear it in my voice. I am so giddy because I get to interview one of my favorite people, John Peterson. He is an actor right now. He is Brill in the national tour of The Outsiders. This show, you guys, everyone's talking about it. Literally, it's a national tour. Everyone in the nation's talking about it. And I feel pretty cool because John is my friend and he is on the show with us today. John, thank you so much for being here.
Elora, it is so good to hear from you. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for reaching out. You're the best.
Oh, I just love you. Like, honestly, John and I go back many a year. What has it been, like 10 years now?
I do believe it's been a decade, yeah.
Yes, it was 10 years ago. Little John, you were like a teenager at the time. We were in West Side Story together, and I was the Velma to his Riff. It's okay if you admit, John, that I'm the best dance partner you've ever had. It's fine.
I was literally about to say Elora was the best dance partner I've ever had. You took the words right out of my mouth.
I know. You've been with professionals and Broadway stars, but you're still like, you know what? Dance at the gym with Elora Murray. That is the pinnacle of my career. It's fine, John. I know it is.
Me dancing in my jeans that I bought from TJ Maxx, you know.
It was a great time 10 years ago. But like, speaking of that, your journey, I love it. What sparked your passion for theater? How did this all start?
Truly my first performance, and it's that time of year, so it works. It was a Christmas like pageant at the church that my family went to. I got asked to sing a duet of Away in the Manger. And I worked so hard on preparing. I was in 4th grade, itty bitty, but like that was my first public performance. And like I practiced in my basement in front of a mirror so much. And after that, I just like, I did a play in 5th grade. It was Snow White and I was the prince. And my mom made me a cape. And then I did my first musical in 7th grade. I was an Oompa Loompa in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And the rest is history. I just like never stopped. All through middle school and high school, it was my favorite thing that I did. I did so many extracurricular activities. I was like, thought I was going to go to school for engineering to be practical, but like nothing really made me nearly as happy as doing musicals and performing. So senior year of high school, I was like, no, I need to give theater a shot. And that's how I ended up at the U in the musical theater program. I was in like a lot of AP classes. And so I was truly like, I'll be an engineer.
Right.
And then
He's laughing.
And then I saw Newsies on Broadway and I was just like, who am I kidding? Like, I don't want to be an engineer. I want to be on Broadway.
And
so
that's one of the things that I love so much about this story, and why I wanted you to share it with us, is that you are just this Renaissance man. You are so smart. You had so many talents in so many different areas, but you followed your heart and your gut and your dreams, and you were like, you know what? This is what makes me happy. And the answer is always going to be no if I don't try. So I might as well.
Yes. I mean, thanks for reflecting that back to me. Like, literally kind of gave me chills because it's true. It's crazy how when we like trust our gut, and if I don't do this, I feel like I will spend the rest of my life in regret. And that's a big decision for a 17-year-old to make. But I constantly had to recommit myself, especially with the pandemic. Like, you know, so much theater stopped for a long time. And after a few years of like feeling really murky, I was just like, I have to recommit myself to, like, my 17-year-old self was so gutsy to chase this dream, and I've got to recommit myself to that if I want this to happen.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people did go through that because during the pandemic, the arts took a hit. And I think a lot of performers were in your shoes during that time. So congratulations to you to be like, you know what? That 17-year-old kid had guts. At the U, theater played a huge role in your studies. How did you make the jump from Utah Theater to the Outsiders tour? I mean, this is a Tony Award-winning show.
It definitely was. I mean, it wasn't a quick jump. There are truly people on this tour who just graduated or even left school. I think we have 3 or 4 kids, I will call them, that left their college program to join this tour. So they truly jumped. I've been out of school 7 years. So it was like a lot of step to get here. But I think one of the things that really set me up for success, of course, in addition to the training that I got at the U, was being able to work professionally in Utah while still in school. Like I worked, obviously we did West Side Story together at the Egyptian Theater in Park City. So iconic. And I did 4 shows at Pioneer Theater Company while I was in school. Professional theater and equity theater. Equity is the actors union. The rest of the cast came from New York. So I was working while, you know, literally on my own campus with a bunch of New York professionals who had been working, and they were so generous in sharing wisdom and getting to watch them rehearse in the rehearsal studio and then go through the tech process and put a show on its feet. Doing a professional run of a show 4 times while in school was really helpful for making the jump to New York, because when I got to New York, I had established a little network already of professional actors, and that was extremely helpful. As I transitioned into then booking my first job out of school was at a different regional theater, and I was like, I know how this works. And of course, we always keep learning, but that was definitely helpful. And then it's just like any other career, I think networking is huge. I've been working, and like I said, there was a long gap after the pandemic of not working, and that was very frustrating and discouraging, but it just feels like building blocks. You know, one thing leads to the next, and you get yourself in front of the same casting directors repeatedly, and it's nice because they want you to work, and the director wants people to get cast, and so it just really has to be the right fit. And when I saw The Outsiders, I was like, well, if this isn't Newsies to Outsiders pipeline. Like, I don't know why it's like.
John, that's one of the things I love so much about who you are and your story is that it was building blocks, like you said. It wasn't instant. It's so relatable and so inspiring to be like, I'm going to do this role now. Now I'm going to do this role. I'm going to network here. I'm going to take this opportunity here, because that's really how most of us get our dreams, is we just keep going. Even if you're not a performer, if there's a dream that you have, your experience is so inspiring. Those small steps turned out to be like, I always say ripples make waves, and you are really a testament.
Thank you.
So
yes, and you're right. I really resonate with, I don't even know who said it, but I feel like I've heard it over and over, probably because we like, hearing what we are attracted to. And like, there's no such thing as an overnight success. Like, there's so much work that has gone into anyone's quote unquote overnight success stories. It's like, well, they've probably been behind the scenes working.
Absolutely.
And then eventually, then all of a sudden they get recognized for all the hard work they've put in.
How does it feel? Now you are here. How does it feel to be performing this Tony Award-winning show?
It's very pinch me. It's been so amazing because the show and the story itself is amazing and resonates with so many people. And then the show, the creative team put so much care into the production, which led it to winning multiple Tony Awards. And it's still doing really well on Broadway because they did an incredible job making this beautiful piece of storytelling come to life. So to be able to be a part of it is really special. And I know the whole cast feels the same way. It's amazing. It's so well received every single night, and people are so moved by it, whether they're really familiar with the story, or had no experience with it at all. People are consistently blown away. And that's,
I love that.
You can't really ask for a better response to being a part of a show.
For someone, for someone who's listening, who doesn't know, how would you describe this musical? Its story, its vibe, what connects it to the audience?
That's a great question. And I don't want to give any spoilers because
let's just talk about at its core, why do you think people connect with it so much?
I think because whether or not people are familiar with the term chosen family, I think the story really demonstrates what that means, whether it is, you're connecting with them and having struggles with them and getting in arguments with them and overcoming. And also in some ways, I think people resonate with feeling like an outsider, just thus the name of the show, or maybe even if you do fit in, still feeling like something is off in your life and being able to be encouraged to pursue changing that and growing beyond that. It's about growth and friendship and, again, chosen family. And I think that's really beautiful. It's really about, these two groups, the Greasers and the Socias, teenage gangs. Because I read it in 7th grade too. These two groups obviously don't get along. And that's such a universal story basically classism and having two groups that do not get along, but really in their heart of hearts they both want the same thing, which is connection, and their differences keep them apart, but they're yearning for connection with their own family, their own friends. And I think that's why the story resonates with so many people, because even if you weren't necessarily in a group like that in high school or teenager, we all know what it feels like to want to belong and yearn for more connection and feel displaced.
Like I said, I have loved this story for years. At our core, we want to be seen and we want to be loved. I'm so excited to see you in this show. Since you're traveling all over the place, it's hard to catch up with you. But everyone from all walks of life can relate to the Outsiders.
Everyone knows what that feels like.
Oh, everyone. It's sad that everyone knows what that feels like, but that's being human.
And that's, I think, why it also feels so special, is because the reason I like doing theater is bringing humans together and helping people feel human connection, feel something emotionally. And because I've had that experience as an audience member so many times, and I think art is so powerful in that way, because it can not only make us feel something, but maybe even open us up to feeling something new that we haven't felt before, a new kind of empathy for other people, other stories, and having it really, truly resonate with so many people
That's
that's exactly what I want to be doing.
That's beautiful. And I mean, this production, one of the reasons everyone knows it is because it rains on stage with some very powerful choreography.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, with all of these intense technical aspects, how do you prepare yourself physically and mentally? Sometimes in, different city night after night. How are you doing that?
Great question. I will first start by saying our creative team, they were so amazing. We had like a 5-week rehearsal process in New York, which is honestly very generous. This is the second cast to ever do this show because it's still on Broadway. There was the Broadway cast and then now there's us. So they really wanted to imbue the same amount of care and theater magic into this production to set it up for success. And so that's what I was going to say is our director, really, as we were building the show, was just like, this is intense and can be intense. So we have to be finding connection with our fellow actors outside of the story, which deals with a lot of violence and honestly like hate crimes and fighting and really some intense stuff mentally and emotionally, especially for some characters. I am a perpetrator of violence in this show. I am a classic bully, a preppy bully. It is fun to tap into that side of me, but at the same time, it's like, it can be heavy. And I know it's also heavy for the people receiving the violence. That's not fun to do night after night either. But anyway, our director did a really great job of reminding us of like this concept of de-rolling, which is, after the scene is done, doing something small or silly to reconnect with your fellow actors as like a human, to make you leave the character behind, because we're telling a story. And so we can't let that infiltrate our own lives, because the body doesn't necessarily always know when it's real or not. If you're giving a fake punch as much effort as you would a real punch and it's charged by anger and hatred, the body holds on to that. We have little moments backstage to like get out of that. As soon as the rumble's done, I have a piece of candy from our amazing props person on stage left. To get into it, I definitely have to warm up for every show a lot. People make fun of me because I'm always stretching backstage and moving my body. Yeah, I'm trying to avoid injury here. But yeah, I definitely have to get my heart rate up before the rumble, warm up my neck, honestly, because there's a lot of like hits that we take, like receiving.
Fight choreography is super intense because one move to the left or to the right that wasn't choreographed, you're going to hurt someone.
Yep. Elora, I don't know if you remember this, but the one, because in West Side Story, there's also a rumble.
You don't say.
And there was one night that I did punch Bernardo in the face, and he got a bloody nose on stage and had to run off. Like, I don't know if he ran off, but he got a bloody nose immediately. I don't know what we did. I don't remember what happened, if we stopped the show or we kept going, but thankfully I didn't break his nose. But like, yeah, that was an example of fight choreo going wrong. And there's definitely potential for that in this show. But because of that experience back then, I am very cautious and trying to stay within the precision of the fight choreo. And our choreographers are amazing. It's the Cooperman brothers, Rick and Jeff. They have a background in dance and martial arts. So they did all the choreo and all the fight choreo, which sometimes, if a show has a lot of fight choreography or even just a little bit, they'll just hire a fight choreographer. They do it all. And learning the rumble was its own beast, but then doing it for the first time with the rain and tech was crazy. I truly, the only way I can describe it is like, I felt like a caveman.
How do you mean?
Because, we had worked at that point, the rumble, the choreography was in our body, but then adding the rain to it, it was this crazy out of body experience, because thankfully my brain wasn't thinking about, wait, what do I do next? But I was like, I'm now drenched and I'm fighting, and there's fake blood and there's dirt all over the place, and my shirt is ripped off, and like, it is so animalistic, but but yet again precise. Like, we have to keep that consistency of it. And the lighting is really intense and really amazing. The lighting itself won a Tony Awards. So just all of the elements coming together is sometimes not right before I'm like, oh gosh, I have to get wet right now.
Yeah.
But then as soon as the rain hit, as soon as it starts, like, we're all locked in. We have to be. And lastly, I'll say in the preparation for the Rumble, every day before the show, we have a long fight call where we do every fight sequence in the show as needed. So we are practicing it before the show, every single show.
So that you don't punch someone in the nose and they bleed everywhere.
Again, yeah.
I don't remember that happening when we were in West Side Story.
Yeah, so shout out to Jaime.
It is so amazing to me how much work it takes. And I mean, I have been in this world and I see it. And I love you talking about this for those who maybe, have never been in theater, but they've gone to see these shows. And it's so nice to hear all that work and actually what goes on behind it to show audiences this really deep, profound story. And I mean, speaking of audiences, I imagine that every city, every audience is different. Is there one audience reaction that just has really stayed with you?
Two. I'll start with, we've done one student matinee. It was an 11 a.m. show. I think that it's the only one that we are doing. And honestly, I hope so, because that's too early to be getting rained on and bloody. So that was amazing because it was I forget how many, maybe 2,500 or 3,000 seats. And it was all middle school and high schoolers on a field trip. So being able to share this story with them, that was amazing. They just, were such a generous audience and screaming for everything. That was one. But second, it was really amazing. We opened the show in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where, if you don't know the story of The Outsiders, it's set in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And so this story means a lot to the city of Tulsa. Susan Hinton, the author of the book, she's 77, by the way. We haven't talked about this yet, but I'm sure I was told this in middle school when I read the book, but I completely forgot. She wrote it when she was 16, and it was published when she was 18.
I forgot
she
was that young when she wrote it.
And that's the other reason that it resonates so much, especially with younger audiences and, audiences of any age, because she truly captures the teenage experience, all the tumultuous emotions, the changes that we're going through so well. So whether you are currently a teenager or, an adult who is looking back on those years, she captures it so beautifully, and you're just immediately connected to that time in your life. So anyway, she's only 77 now because she
was so
wrote
young.
The book. Yeah, was so young when she wrote it. So she came to opening night and she was there, got to talk with her, and the audiences in Tulsa were just so electric because, she's their pride and joy. And the movie was filmed there. So there's the Outsiders House Museum, and we got to go there and sign the wall next to the movie cast. My name is 3 feet away from Rob Lowe's name and Susan Hinton's name. And I'm this
amazing.
Is crazy.
That movie is star-studded. It is.
It is. Tom Cruise, Patrick Swayze, Rob Lowe, so many in there very early on. And it's a Francis Coppola movie. So.
And like I said, every audience is different. And to be there in Oklahoma, to meet the author, to sign your name, that must have been just extraordinary. And I, imagine some of the people listening to this, many of them, maybe they dream of performing on stage. What advice would you give to someone who wants to pursue musical theater? Maybe they're just starting out. Maybe they're in the thick of it. What advice would you give them?
There's so many things.
He takes a huge deep breath. He has many feelings.
It is a lot of hard work. Don't be afraid to work hard, but also as a creative, don't forget that part of the work is play. Don't be afraid to play. I think a lot of my time in college I was trying to work so hard, and I felt like because I started my senior year of high school, truly training them, I felt so far behind in my training. And that narrative ended up inhibiting me later in my mid-20s because I realized I was still holding on to that. Even though I was already working professionally, I still had the narrative of you're behind. And I was like, this is not helpful, especially with creative endeavors. We can't force it to produce and just work in that way. It just doesn't work like that. Creativity is play. And so even as an adult artist, creative. It still has to be play, and there will be, yes, of course we have to like sometimes sit down and be like, okay, let's do this.
Right.
Let's turn on the creative juices, but sometimes it doesn't come, and that's okay. I got into this cycle of being like, well, I have to be working, and I'm not taking enough dance class, and I'm not doing enough, and blah, 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 blah. And it was like, hey, when was the last time you like sat down and doodled? Like, when did you have fun being creative recently? And the answer was like, not in a while, because I let it become too much of a job. And we have to remind ourselves that creativity should be fun and enjoyable, and it can be messy. When I was in college, I was so scared of being messy. And that was a huge inhibitor in growth, because I wanted to be perfect, but there's no such thing as perfect.
Absolutely
and
not.
also perfect isn't an exciting performance to watch. So yes, there is still hard work, but it has to be met with play and nurturing and fulfill, like still, nurturing your creative self. If you just try and, put it on a leash and make it only work, it's going to be detrimental. Really work on finding the balance of work and play within your creativity.
I love that.
Because that's why creativity exists and art exists. It makes life so much better. So if it's making your life no longer better, you got to reevaluate.
After this tour, are there any goals you're chasing or dream roles you're hoping to tackle? Like, I have to know right before we wrap up.
So I'm understudying on this tour, which is really exciting to get to like sink my teeth into some acting roles, because for a lot of my career I've been dancing, and definitely want to get into TV film after this. I mean, I've already been auditioning for it, but I want to make my TV debut after this. My manager and that is part of our career trajectory. So that is what I have my eyes on next.
It has been, my gosh, I have loved talking to you. But before we wrap up, we do this thing on every one of our podcasts. It's called the Fresh Five, where I ask you 5 totally random questions just so our listeners can get to know you. I mean, we've gotten to know you through this, but we're going to ask you totally random questions. So here we go. So my very first question for you is, if you could have any superpower in the world, what would it be?
Flying.
Oh, okay. You answered that real quick. For your second question, do you play an instrument?
I play piano. I stopped training in 6th grade, so like I can read music, but it takes me a long time. But I have like some go-tos that I can do.
Then my second question is, if you could play any instrument in the world, what would it be? You can't say the piano. I gotcha.
Probably, my gut is saying violin, so we're going to stick with violin.
Oh, I love that. All right. The third question is, what is your absolute favorite thing about yourself?
Sometimes it can be hard to find, but I think joy. And I think that's my favorite thing about you, too.
All right. Number 4, okay. If you could be any Disney prince, who would you pick?
Flynn Rider. Does he a prince? Does he count?
You know what? He totally counts because he's my favorite. What is your absolute favorite quote?
Quote? I'm actually on Google. No, it's the Teddy Roosevelt quote about, can I read you the whole thing? It's not that long.
Go for it.
Brene Brown references it in her
The
book.
Arena.
Yes, The Arena. It is not the critic who counts. Here's a John quote. Your own critic can be in there too. Yeah, it's not your own critic that counts, but also others. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spent himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat.
All right. And that was your Fresh Five. John, I have absolutely loved talking to you. And I know everyone listening has enjoyed listening to your story and, how relatable it is that you had a dream and you just kept going for it. So thank you so much for talking to us, John. And thank you.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes, go for it.
It's quick. For the people that aren't, pursuing a career in acting, also encourage creativity as like, if you've been like, well, I'm not really a writer or I'm terrible at drawing. I don't believe that. Follow urges if you ever do have any to like be doodling creative. You will be so much happier and your inner child will be so happy if it'll just make your life a little better. There's so much darkness in this world. So
yeah, creativity, no matter what it is, it can be, like you said, it can be writing, it can be singing, it can be playing an instrument, it can be, like you said, doodling, painting. And I love that you said that. Love it. And everyone who's been listening, thank you so much. And please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. And we will catch you next time.
Congrats, you made it to the end. If you want to continue to freshen up your day, you can watch us on Fresh Living every weekday on CBS Channel 2 in Utah at 1 o'clock. You can also watch us on our YouTube channel, KUTV Fresh Living, and follow us on social media. We will see you next week.